All right, so welcome to the next lesson here in the guide to price action. Real quick though, before we get into the lesson, I'm going to recap a little bit on what we looked at with yesterday's price action on dollar DXY. As we can see, this is yesterday's candle, this is Wednesday's candle. And if you notice, we are showing very strong respect for this fair value gap. Right, this is giving very much that this is an interested area of liquidity, right? That we are distributing from this area of liquidity, right? Because accumulation would be buying, right? Accumulate is acquire, and distribution is getting rid of, right? So selling. And then going down to the 4-hour time frame, going into yesterday from last night, we were on the 1 hour, and we had identified this consolidation, we could say, right? Yesterday. Let's go back to last night, which was here. When we got off, it was around 11 o'clock, just about. So yeah, we had identified this range right here. Brian was like, why did we put that there? Well, because we have this high here, we have this low here, and that's the range we have that we've been trading inside of for a few hours. And we were like, okay, well, if during London session we see a run higher here, and then during New York session we see a run lower like this, then we would expect the sell-off. Now, we didn't quite get that during those kill zones, right? But we did see price run up, sweep the highs of the liquidity zone. And then at 2 a.m. during London session, right, we saw price kind of get up there and then just mess around. Like, it just kind of consolidated. And this is the reason that London session can be a little tricky, right? Because if you would have saw them coming up here, and then of course you would have went to the lower time frame for a confirmation, and you would have been waiting for that confirmation, and you would see that until 5 a.m. still, we never really got that confirmation for real. And if I go down to a lower time frame, again, it's nothing really nice. You feel me? But going back up to that hourly time frame, boom, we did start to see selling pressure come in. Then 7 a.m. we're going into New York kill zone, and going into New York kill zone again, we're still just consolidating. This is the reason I told y'all I didn't take no setups. Like, I didn't see anything really, just for me. Like, I'm not looking to just scalp, especially on no forex pairs, right? But again, boom, we saw them go ahead and give that strong displacement to the sell side. But guess what? Still just inside this consolidation range, right? We were still chilling inside of that range. And so now we're going into the 8 o'clock time frame, and we see they started to push up higher, more consolidation, and then we see them drop down lower. It's like, just why would I wanted to have participated in this? There was no reason for me to have desired and to participate in this. So this is the reason that I sat out London session and New York session. The same thing that DXY is doing. It's the same thing that was going on Euro, going on GBPUSD. It was the same thing. Right, but we did go ahead and see them break out to the downside, right? So we did get that sweep higher here, and then we see them break out to the downside. So this is the type of price action that we were wanting to start to see for confirmations on sells. Now, even though it didn't happen during the kill zone, so I didn't execute on any of it, it's still showing me, it's still giving me ideas of what it is that I may be looking to see, right? And then going into 5 p.m. once I saw that, and then this is where we are right now. So I am expecting to see dollar sell off from this position, especially looking on a 4-hour time frame. We could see again this whole consolidation that we had here. It really just fills into this order block right here. Right, so there's our order block. And then on the 4-hour time frame, you can see that they traded down below, they traded back up in, and then they're trading away, right? And we have this new day opening gap right here now. Good old liquidity gap. And this is something we'll talk about in a moment, right? And that gap specifically is known as a volume imbalance. All right, so now we have that volume imbalance there. And the idea would be on a higher time frame. I know we're bearish on the monthly. I know we're bearish on the weekly. I know that on the weekly, we just came up into a weekly and daily fair value gap. On the daily, I'm sorry, we just came up into this daily fair value gap. On the lower time frames, I'm seeing displacement away from that fair value gap. And I'm seeing them go ahead and form we had a consolidation form. We saw an expansion away from the equilibrium. We seen them trade back up into that expansion right here. And then we saw them go ahead and sell off again, right? So we are seeing the makings of a reversal. Okay, so even though it's Thursday, we do know we have NFP tomorrow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait till after NFP, see what the market is setting up for going into that 840 time frame, and maybe I can go ahead and pull one out of the market before the end of the day, because I haven't really traded this week, and this is the best price action that I've seen for the entire week outside of Tuesday, when I started to see the formations down here, right, where the market had that fair value gap to trade up into, and we had seen them trade back down into a level like this at 2 a.m. in the morning into this hourly fair value gap, and then you can see they just took off, right? But I just so happened I had horrible timing on Tuesday, so I paid for it. But either way it goes, this is kind of what I'm liking what we're seeing as far as the market trading away from this level. Now, looking at that, of course, now once I have confirmations on a level that I'm looking to see the market trade away from, I need a target, right? So if we're trading away from this daily fair value gap, I'm going to pay attention to 4-hour targets, all right? And out of this price range right here, all right, out of this fall off right here from this high, which is pretty much the beginning of July. So again, this is our last month worth of price action. As you can see, we came up into our optimal trade entry and we're also selling off. And Brian, optimal trade entry is not any random price range. Optimal trade entry is specifically when we see price break a low or a high in the direction of the trend, right? So we see this is a downtrend. We see that we just had a break below this sweep of structure here. And so now this range here would pose an optimal trade entry. You feel me? But it's not just any price range that I draw the fibs on, right? It's a specific type of formation that we would want to see it in. Now, again, going back over to our PD arrays, right? I would be paying attention to us trading down into a discount level, all right? And there's a couple areas for me to pay attention to, such as the low of last week, which stands out, right? We have the low of last week here. But again, like I told you guys about rejection blocks, order flow has been bullish over this past couple of weeks. Overall, yes, we're bearish, but just for the sake of it's a Friday and I don't even need to kill myself that much, I'm just going to put a daily sell side liquidity right here and pay attention to that. Going down to the 4-hour time frame, I can also see on the 4-hour time frame that we have sell side liquidity right here. We have a major news event as well tomorrow, right? So I got sell side liquidity, daily sell side liquidity right here. And then also on a 4-hour time frame, guess what else I could see? I could see this fair value gap, right? Boom. And boom. Right, so this is an area that gives a little bit of magnet action. All right, so if I come into New York session tomorrow, post NFP, and I'm seeing price really position for a sell lower, or say that we go through London session and going into New York session, I've seen price position itself for a sell lower, then this is where I'm going to be targeting. But of course, I gotta stay, like, that's the only real setup I'm going to want. Like, if anything else happens, if I'm wrong, or if the sell-off happens earlier, or if it's not in the right place at the right time, then I'm just gonna be sitting out. Like, it wouldn't be worth it. And that's just on that. So that's what I'm looking to see on dollar to finish out the week. And if we look at this weekly candle, it has been a rather interesting. I mean, we've really played out a good amount of range for the week already. Like just looking at the past 4 weeks or so, you'll notice that on average, like just going from the high to the low here, that was like, I don't know how to count range in dollar, but it's 13.29. All right, so I'll keep that in mind. And then we had this candle, it was massive. That was like a good 3,000 whatever point whatever. And then this joint right here was 1,600. So we had 13,000, we had 1,600, 3,000. That was a massive candle. And then we had this joint right here, which was 1,400. So on average, over the past few weeks, around 2,000 to that 1,600 to 2,000 has been the average over the past few weeks, and this week has already made that range. You feel me? So that's why it's like, if this week has been bullish as fuck already, I wouldn't be surprised, as ICT calls it a TGIF, right? Thank God it's Friday setup, right? Which is the week's been bullish already. So of course I would expect for us to finish off the week with this being the high of the week, and we're now kind of selling off to where the week is going to close. So that's kind of what I'm peeping when it comes to that. And then looking at the majors, Euro USD clearly, I mean, for me, looks the best. Euro USD came into that fair value gap we talked about yesterday, played the same exact type of price action, came down to the 50%, respected it, came down to the 50%, respected it, but I just didn't like the way that it was playing around throughout my kill zones, so I left it alone, right? Going into London session, this is all we saw during London session. I mean, you could have tried to play Daredevil with this bottom here, but it's just like, for what? It's not what I like. And then again, during New York session, just again consolidating like this, you would have been pissed during this price action, right? Like, it's just not it. And it wasn't until 10 a.m. comes by, and then we seen a bit of a breakout. But again, this is not what I like. But this is confirmation type of price action for what I like to see. So looking at euro dollar, I mean, same type of concept. We just came back down to this fair value gap. Well, where could I be targeting for them to potentially retrace back up to? And again, we have areas from last week, right? We have these rejection blocks here. Well, I guess this is a perfect example of what a rejection block isn't. And so this is not a rejection block. Does anybody know why these aren't rejection blocks? Anybody? Bingo, right? The candles are not the same size. You feel me? We got an engulfing candle, and then we have an order block. That's not the example of a rejection block. This is a rejection block. This is not a rejection block. This is, let me say, yeah, this is not a rejection block. All right. So either way it goes, though, it is a level of liquidity to pay attention to, because it's an old high, which is up here, and it was also the high of last week. Right. But of course, first I'm going to keep my eye on this level here at the top of the candle. And then I'm also going to know that I have a level of liquidity up there. Right. And so going down to the lower time frame, again, here's that order block. This was that last down candle at the fair value gap and the equilibrium of this. This was that dash down candle. And then here was our acceleration higher. So I'm going to be paying attention. And I can get rid of this now. I think we all know what we're looking at. All right. So now I'm paying attention to this order block that we have right here. And this order block was clearly already traded above multiple times, not respected. They came back down here, and then they traded away from it. Let's go down to the hourly. And so on the hourly, here's our order block on the hourly time frame. Right? And we see they traded above. They came back into it, right? Within that same candle, by the way. This is one of those examples that I was giving you guys, right? So boom, here's our down candle. And then during that down candle, we saw them trade above, right? That's the high. And then we saw them trade back down into it. And we, of course, expect them to do what? To respect that 50%. And you see they traded up above. They opened down here, came up, open, high of right here, and then came down and closed above the halfway point. So if you when you get really good And when you get really confident, you would be willing to take the buys off of that type of a level, right? Now, again, this was after 10 a.m., so it's outside my kill zone. Now, I will tell you guys that there is a kill zone called London close kill zone. All right. So I know I'm always talking about 7 to 10. That's based on my trading models. But there is a London close, because London closes at 11 o'clock. And London close is typically from 10 to 10:30 to that 11 o'clock, 11:30 time frame. Okay. And you're usually expecting reversals around that time. Right. So if we've seen price action being bearish all day, all right, and then all of a sudden we come to this level, we see this order block, that would make sense that they're going to go the opposite direction than we've been going all week, than we've been going all day. At London close, we show signs of bullishness, right? So it's not a completely crazy trade opportunity. So if y'all ever see me taking trades outside the kill zone, it's because I be knowing certain stuff. And it's because of that London kill zone. And you can see on that next candle, they opened up complete displacement higher, right? And then boom, next candle, saw them continue higher. And let's see if they made it up into that fair value gap, which we got right here on the 15-minute time frame. And then boom, they came back down. I think they come back into the order block. Yeah, they come back down to the order block. And here's another entry right here. So this would have been that first Magic Mike entry, but here's the actual validated. We closed above, traded back down to it. Once you see this, they should not come back down, especially like I told you guys before. When I've seen that price traded above the order block and already came back close to that 50%, any other move, I wouldn't be expecting them to come anywhere near that 50%. So if I was to enter right here, which I wouldn't, because again, this is at 3 p.m., but based off of price action, I'm showing y'all something, right? If I was to enter right here within a kill zone, this is one of those times where my entry would go either below the 50% or a couple pips below the 50%. And then of course, targeting, that buy side liquidity of the fair value gap. But again, this was at 5 p.m., so I doubt that they made their way up there. But as you can see, they making their way up there. All right. And this is going to bring me into our propulsion blocks conversation. But with that being said, that is the price action I like to see on Euro USD. Now, I want to, of course, if I'm expecting bearishness on dollar, I would expect them to want to continue trading higher on Euro USD, but there's no real liquidity voids in here for us, right? Like I would ideally like to enter off a retracement, right? And a retracement would pair with a fair value gap or with a fair value gap or a liquidity void. And I clearly have none. Okay, so this is one of those times where it's like, Now, if they came back down to the order block, that would be what we're paying attention to, because that would be this is one of our vocabulary words, but that would be a reclaimed order block, right? The second visit back down to the order block, that would be a reclaimed order block, because we traded to it once. Trading it to the second time would be a reclaimed order block. And with that being said, as I said before, we traded down into a daily higher time frame area. So I would be looking to see them trade back up to a premium, right? A daily, a 4-hour or lower premium, which we have multiple levels, okay? Up in premium would be here, right? That would be the premium level that I'm paying attention to, because we have this fair value gap. That we would be paying attention to price to deliver to. And you could take partials off at the levels of buy side liquidity, because it is a Friday, so we don't want to push our luck. If we were to get an entry on this and it starts moving on our direction, then we want to make sure that we're not being greedy, because I've had a proponent to do that in my past lives. All right. So that's kind of what I'm paying attention to on Euro USD. Last time I looked at GBPUSD, it wasn't really that big, that was bullish. All right, so Euro USD was the one I was paying attention to today, but Euro USD was really just not. I mean, GBPUSD was really not giving it It was really just consolidating. Even after that 7 a.m. news we talked about, like that's when they actually gave the low. So unless you was here and you caught that low at 7 a.m., nothing else on GU would have mattered for the day, in my opinion. But if anybody caught that low, that would have been a beautiful low to catch. I don't even know, like that might have been that would have been a 1 minute entry if you were about that life. That would have been a 1 minute entry. And then they came back down to the 1 minute fair value gap right here. All right. They came back to that at 8 a.m. That would have been like that would have been it. All right. That would have been the only way. But I haven't really told you guys to do nothing crazy on the 1 minute like that. So I wouldn't have expected nobody to be in there. But if you did, yo, shout out to you, man. Star pupil. You going places. But with that being said, same concept on GBPUSD. Now we're seeing this strong bullishness, but guess what? GU look a little bit prettier than Euro USD because we actually do have a fair value gap to trade back into, right, on a retracement. So I would be paying attention to it right here. It's okay that you missed it, my boy. I just showed you wasn't nothing clean in there for real. Like, and this is one of those lessons that I'm gonna go over in the next portion of the course is that the market moves every single day. Like when we use words like miss, it's like you're training yourself with the wrong mentality. You feel me? Because the market literally moves every single hour. That doesn't mean it moves high probability in motion. You get what I'm saying? And like I said in the chat, I thoroughly do not feel like there was anything high probability today. Like if I would have made money on a trade today, I actually would not have been proud of myself. You feel me? Because it would have been low probability and I really would have I would have put myself in a 50-50 position because it was a bunch of 50-50 trades today. You get what I'm saying? So it not necessarily that you missed anything. You feel me? Especially if it wasn't a high probability session. 1 second, guys. Okay. So let's take those 3 pairs one trade, catch 50, 20, each instead of waiting 56. That's okay. Regardless of how many pips you looking to catch, you want a high probability situation. And I don't know if you should aim to take 3 in the same session. I mean, that if you could do it, then okay, but that's a lot of management. You feel me? Like when we do the day trading models, the problem is not aiming for, not focusing on one and looking at it's just 50 to 60 pips in a day is not like that's not really what you should be looking to do. If you're looking to day trade, like I told you in the chat, it's 40 pips is what you're looking for. 50 pips is your max TP on a daily setup. Anything else, you're going for multiple days. So again, like it's just a level of training so that you know what it is that you should even properly be aiming for. You feel me? For the type of setups that it is that you're looking to set up. But yeah, like with GBPUSD, that fair value gap on the hourly, that's gonna have my attention. And then again, same thing, paying attention to this price range that we have from this high down to this low, right? And we've already, on GU, we've actually already traded up into that premium. But that's because I'm looking at the wrong range. Let's see. The last month's range, though, is from this high, right? And so, yeah, same concept. Seeing them take back this liquidity void and potentially go ahead and come back up to these highs, right? And really these highs because it's up into the 50%. But we'll just say this right now to keep it kosher. This line right here, I know that is a trend line. So this actually makes this also interesting because, one of the concepts that we pay attention to is trend lines getting ran, right? And you can see this whole thing was a weekly trend line. And obviously they did not respect that trend line. They ran right below it, which would be identified as a liquidity sweep, right? And from a liquidity sweep, we would expect for them to want to deliver to a level of buy side. You feel me? So a couple of confirmations really to go with this. And like I said, we know we have that high impact news tomorrow. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Let me put my Euro USD chart over there on the watch list. And I was also had my eye looking at U Chef. UCAD is also a good one to pay attention to as well, because UCAD done traded up above the highs. Like we for UCAD, looking at the last month's range, we took that whole thing. All right, we took this whole thing. We've traded back up into the what? What is that? What is that we done traded up into? All right, that's what we keep our eye out for. Oh yeah, this is rejection blocks, and we saw them start to show displacement lower. So yeah,